Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I am your humble host, Ted Glover. With me, as always, on our live shows, Christopher Gates, the founder, owner, grand poobah, head blogger, numero uno honcho over at the Vikings SB Nation website, the Daily Norseman. My co-host with Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, right over there. Yeah, I guess. I don't know how it's looking.
I don't have as many titles as Chris Gates, let me tell you.
He's Drew Bunning behind the curtain, as it were, making all this possible. Maybe Toots is the talking cat. Welcome everybody who's already in the live chat. We got a lively crowd in there already. Welcome to the 9 or 10 people, however many it is, I don't know, that are watching. That's soon to be more. It's going to be in the hundreds soon, I bet, probably.
Yes.
Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight? Chris, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I think during the 15-minute countdown, Quavo Mensa made 4 more trades. So, this has definitely been the most exciting cut down day in a number of years for the Vikings. It's been just crazy the last couple of days.
It has, and we're going to cover it all. Drewster, how you doing, my friend?
I got a message from Chris about 3 hours ago going, are we going to have a 3-hour show? There's so much stuff happening. It's a loaded show. Thank you to everybody who's joining us tonight. I want to give a shout out to everybody joining the show and tell everybody to like and subscribe to what we're doing here and to say thank you for always supporting our show. It's about you. This is the end of August, the end of our Hot August live production. We're going back in the studio next week, but we'll still be live. Ted, you can tell them about the upcoming schedule for the rest of the year. Very simple. Very simple.
So for tonight, again, we're giving away a prize at the end of the show. All you have to do is make a comment in our live chat. Just say, hi, hello, good evening. What do you think about the trade? Whatever. And you're entered. At the end of the show, Ruby's going to spin an electronic wheel, the Wheel of Destiny.
Wheel of Toots. Get it.
And she'll let you know. She'll give you a link to the prize vault. This is the last night to enter the Vikings Report with Drew and Ted Rook Dog Challenge. In the comments tonight or in the comments below after the show ends. We want you to enter who you think the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year will be. You can only enter one time. If that player gets hurt, you can't change your pick. So hopefully a lot of people are holding off and putting their entries in until now. The winner at the end of the year gets $100.
Yeah.
Can't beat $100. Like Drew mentioned, we will be back back in studio. This is our last live show. We will be back in studio. The next time you will see us, a new show on this channel will be next Friday, September 9th at 10 a.m. Central, when we preview the Week 1 game against the Green Bay Packers. And if you haven't heard, we are now affiliated with Purple Pain Forums. That's purplepainforums.com @_purplepain_ on Twitter. Not sure what their Instagram is. Not sure what all the other stuff is because I don't do any of that crap. But you can find them Purple Pain Forums on Facebook. We are the official podcast. They are the official message board for us. Go over there, talk Vikings. It's a great community. They got a lot of contests going on. We'll hit them hard next week. But, gentlemen, I'm not going to waste any more time with announcements and whatnot because the Vikings have been busy.
Oh, my God, busy.
Drew, do you remember a cut-down day? Like Chris said, do you remember a cut-down day as busy as this in recent memory?
Maybe Father's Day in Oakland. That was kind of crazy day. No?
Lord, we're already off the rails.
No, this has been quite an adventure so far. We're trying to track it all and give everybody the up to the date stuff that's going on. But between all three of us, we got massive notes tonight. This is going to be a big ordeal. It's crazy. But you know what? It's exciting, Ted, because we are 11 days away. 11 days from kickoff.
11 days. 11 days. I'm getting fired up. All right, so let's get right to it. The Vikings made their initial 53-man cut down yesterday. There were a couple of minor surprises, Armand Watts probably being the biggest one. We're going to cover it all. Today, though, was absolutely like if yesterday was just kind of a mild buzz, today Kwesi just crushed the meth and snorted it straight up his nose, man. It was wild. It was wild. But let's get to it. And yeah.
Kwesi needs Drew's T-shirt at this point.
He was
on all the highs. He was on all
Kwesi
the highs.
Adolfo Mensa is the danger, baby.
Here's Heisenberg.
Kwesi is the one who knows.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're just going to kind of go down this by position group. and we'll start on offense, work our way through defense and special teams.
Okay.
Quarterback position, guys that made the roster: Kirk Cousins and Nick Mullins. Cut were Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion. Any surprises there to you, Chris?
No, I think we knew that as soon as the Vikings made the trade for Mullins, that the time was getting kind of short for Mannion and Mond. I'm guessing the Vikings were going to try to sneak out of the practice squad, but unfortunately, the Cleveland Browns had other ideas. They grabbed him off the wire, and then Sean Mannion decided to go back to Seattle. He just kind of ping pongs back and forth between Minnesota and Seattle. So the Vikings are in the market for a third quarterback at this point. I have no idea who the heck is out there for them to potentially look at, to be honest.
I don't either. Drew, did you think they would only go with 2 quarterbacks, or did you think they would keep 3?
I thought it was 2. They did exactly what I thought. We talked about this on the watch party show. It's basically Cousins, Mullins for the season. Whatever happens, happens. But those are your 2 guys. They could find a young guy to be on the practice squad. You know, maybe that Cooper Rush guy. He got cut by Dallas. Maybe he might be a candidate to be on the practice. I don't know, but it's basically, this is what I thought would happen. Is what happened.
So, okay, do you guys ever watch the TV show Intervention?
I've watched that. That's a great show, dude.
So Kellen Mond gets picked up by the Browns, and Sean Mannion, for whatever reason, Seattle Seahawks said, "Yeah, let's go." So here's what I kind of envisioned in my head when this happened, like an episode of Intervention. Quincy Adolfo-Mensa walks into a room thinking he's going to grab Mannion or he's going to grab Mond. And like the Seattle Seahawks are in there and the Cleveland Browns are in there. And there's a couple Vikings fans and he kind of gets ambushed. He's like, what's going on? And so like the Cleveland Browns, they have a letter they prepared and they start reading. Dear Quincy, your actions and the team's actions with the quarterback position have hurt us greatly. We know what it's like to be hurt, and you need help. And so then they just did him a favor and couldn't let him make a bad decision. Tell me I'm wrong.
How does Mannion get another job, Ted?
I don't know.
Are you serious?
I don't know.
That guy has footage of Goodell in Vegas. I'm telling you, he has footage of Goodell in Vegas doing something. He has to. It is Intervention. It is. That explains it well. So Cousins and Mullins are your quarterbacks. Like Chris said, I do think they're going to try and get somebody in the next coming days. They have several spots open on the practice squad, and I fully expect them to sign a third quarterback. I don't know if they'll put him on the active roster or move him to the practice squad or whatever. Go ahead, Drew. Go get Carson Strong.
Okay.
I don't want to get into a big discussion about it. I like that guy when I did my draft write-up on him from Nevada. I think there's something to work with there. I would go get him. He got cut from the Eagles.
Moving on to the running backs. So the Vikings kept 5 running backs, which kind of surprised me. They kept Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Kene Wangu, Ty Chandler, and then fullback C.J. Ham. Too many, too little, just right. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think there's any real surprises there. We saw a bunch of stuff like during the week about a potential Madison trade. But I mean, nobody's going to give up anything of value for a running back in this league anymore, quite frankly, because it's not the premier position it used to be. And if you're not going to get the return for the guy, there's no chance, there's no point in getting rid of him just to get rid of him. And Wong was obviously the kick returner, and Ty Chandler was obviously impressive. I mean, I don't know who else they were going to cut besides Brian Koback, which I think is one everyone expected, but up on the practice squad, which is nice.
Yep.
No, I think you can justify keeping all the backs because I'm guessing O'Connell has different rules for all of them planned.
Drew, any surprises to you in the running back position?
No, not at all. I don't think it's like quarterback, kind of how I seen it rolling out. I think with Madison, basically sit on that guy. If somebody was going to give you a 5th or a 6th round pick, when the season starts, we get to week 4 and the running back goes down, they're going to give you a 3rd.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, the price shoots up when the season starts. People get desperate, and I think you can get. I mean, that might be a bit of a stretch, probably more like a 4th, but I think they're sitting on Madison just to wait to see if some other team needs a running back, because running backs go down, they get hurt, man, a lot. So I like the group we kept. I'm glad Chandler's there, and Koback went to the practice squad. So the running back room is what I thought it would be, Ted.
Yeah, that's a good observation about kind of sitting on a guy like Madison. And as the season goes further and further between now and the trade deadline, his value goes up as teams get in contention and a guy gets hurt. That's a good point. Yeah.
And to kind of back up what Drew said, it was Darren Wolfson from KSTP that said the Vikings weren't going to accept anything. They were looking for a third. They probably weren't going to accept anything less than a fourth. And I'm guessing, like Drew was saying, at this point, nobody was willing to offer that, but they might be willing to offer it later on. So, yeah, well, you can never have too much depth at a position, and we've got depth at running back. So there you go.
Meow, meow.
So, gentlemen, now let's talk wide receiver. When we went to bed last night, the Vikings wide receiver room looked like Justin Jefferson, Amir Smith-Marset, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, and Jalen Naylor.
Didn't even know her.
Naylor didn't even know her. About what time? Lunchtime? I don't know. Earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, about 2:00-ish.
Yeah,
somewhere around there, I think.
The Minnesota Vikings, and this has been rumored kind of going back a few days, and I hadn't really taken a whole lot of stock into it, but it actually happened. The Minnesota Vikings traded a 7th and a 2023 7th and a 2024 conditional 4th round pick for former number 1 wide receiver Jalen Reagor. The Jalen Reagor, you remember, who was picked one spot, I think it was, ahead of Justin Jefferson in the 2020 draft. And you'll see that famous footage. It was the COVID draft where Zimmer was at his ranch and Spielman was in his basement. And they heard that it wasn't Jefferson that got drafted. They both started laughing, and they didn't waste any time to go get Jefferson. Does this move surprise you, Drew? Or did they? One more thing. And after they traded Reagor, they had to clear it. They had to clear a roster spot. And the one guy you didn't really expect to get cut was the guy they did cut, Amir Smith-Marset, another wide receiver. Did the trade or the cut of Smith-Marset surprise you, Drew?
You know, that a little bit that did, because I think there's got to be another roster spot you can trim the fat and keep Marset on the team. I mean, you got like Udo or whatever. I mean, well, get rid of him. I want to try to do a way to find a different position on the roster to make the cut. I probably wouldn't have cut him because I think he still has talent and he has a lot of potential, but I'm hearing a lot of grumblings about the Reagor thing and I don't get it. I did draft write-ups on both Marset and Reagor. Reagor's a better receiver, better punt returner. He's a better football player. So I don't know why people are freaking out so much about it, about like him replacing him or whatever. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I don't really understand why all the negativity.
Chris?
I think the freak out probably has as much to do with any potential comparison between Reagor and Justin Jefferson than it does anything else. I mean, we saw Smith-Marset kind of come on at the end of the year and whatnot. And it seems like, there are guys that they're fans that are more attached to the guys that are on the roster than potentially, going out and getting somebody else to replace them. And I think that might be kind of what it is. I mean, obviously, like Ted said, we saw it on draft night. There was the reaction to Justin Reagor getting selected ahead of Justin Jefferson. And, obviously Reagor has not had the impact in Philadelphia that Jefferson has had in Minnesota over their first years. But, the guy's talented. Like we said, we talked about the punt return role all off season. I mean, Reagor fills that role. I mean, he has enough, he has experience actually doing it, which is more than we can say that for, Amir Smith-Marset, Jalen Naylor, or anybody else. So I think this is going to be one of those things. Keenan, as far as I can tell, is kind of starting to become what Andre Patterson used to be. Like if Andre Patterson wanted a guy and thought he could help on the defensive line, that dude and Andre Patterson develop him. I think this is going to be another thing with Reagor, where McCardle sees something that he thinks he can unlock, and we'll have to see if make that happen.
Is this a McCardle move, Ted?
I think if they were determined to get rid of another wide receiver, which I thought they were going to go with 6, so that was not that they traded for him for Jalen Reagor, not that the Vikings traded for Jalen Reagor, but that they got rid of Amir Smith-Marset. I figured the trade for Reagor gave them 6 wide receivers, which is what they were going to look at. And I kind of thought a guy like Udo or maybe Luigi Villain was a guy they were going to cut and put back onto the practice squad.
Right.
But that didn't happen. Reagor is a guy. I think if he's going to have success, a change of scenery out of Philadelphia probably was needed because he got off to a slow start, and the inevitable comparisons to Justin Jefferson kept growing and growing. He had a couple of really bad drops late in the year for that would have been touchdowns. So I can see it. I just like you, buddy. I thought they were going to go in a different direction in how they were going to adjust their roster. And that was the surprise to me.
There's a couple things people got to know about Reagor. Okay.
Hang on. Really quick. We got over 500 people in the chat room right now.
Yeah.
I want you to be eligible to enter to win a prize. All you got to do is say hi in the live chat. What's up? How you doing? Whatever it is, you're automatically entered. Ruby's going to spin a electronic wheel of Toonses at the end of the show. She'll get you your email, and we'll get your prize. Go ahead with your thought, Drew.
I went back and found my notes on Jalen Reagor from 2020. I had him number 8 on the Drew Big Board. I think I had Justin Jefferson right behind Judy, and then it was Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, and I think he was next. And I went back and I watched the tape and everything today, and I looked at it and I thought, you got to play the quarterback into it, where he goes when he gets drafted. The quarterback. You also got to look at the system. But I had him I looked at my notes, I had him as a second-round receiver. And this is what's unfair to a lot of these players, like it was to Christian Ponder. Christian Ponder, on my notes, was a 4th or 5th-round guy. The Vikings took him in the 1st round, so he's a failure. So everybody bitches at Christian Ponder. You weren't what you were supposed to be. Well, he was never a 1st-round pick. You got to bitch at the Vikings for taking him that high. It wasn't Ponder's fault. He's a 4th-round quarterback. That's Same thing applies to Reagor here. He was a 2nd-round guy. He got taken before Justin Jefferson. So everybody's kind of bagging on him today, saying he hasn't fulfilled what he's supposed to do. Well, you factor in the quarterback, the system, and everything involved before you make your decision on Reagor, and you got to let it play out. This guy is super talented, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I like it.
And again, for everybody that's joining us in the chat, go ahead, put a name in, make a comment in the live chat. You'll be entered to win a prize at the end of the show. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. Really love to see all these new people coming in.
Yeah.
To me, this, since we're talking about Amir Smith-Marset and he was part of last year's draft class, let's look at last year's draft class, because it looks like you've all seen The Godfather. The 2021 draft class is like the 5 families, and Kwesi is Michael taking care of business at the baptism of his new era. And the only guy we thought was going to make it was Carlo or Amir Smith-Marset. And then about 2:00 this afternoon, Kwesi walks into Carlo's house, and Carlos has to get off the phone. Oh, hey, Kwesi. Who was it, Carlo? Was it Barzini?
The guy that's getting a massage that puts his glasses on, shot in the face. I mean,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Anyway, so that last year's draft class, 11 guys were drafted. Out of those 11 guys, 8 have been released. Of those 8, 2 are back on the practice squad, Jalen Twyman and Janarius Robinson. But 3 of the 4 third-rounders, Kellen Mond, Chaz Surratt, Wyatt Davis were cut. Christian Darrisaw is still around. Patrick Jones, the last third-round pick, is still around. Kene Nwangwu and Cameron Bynum. And that's it. Those are the only guys left on the active roster after 1 year.
Not that he's watching, but let me give a shout out to Mike Mayock for taking Alex Leatherwood instead of Christian Darrisaw, because we probably would have wound up with that guy too. And
excellent point. Yeah. Excellent point, Chris Gates.
That would have been ugly.
So that, I mean, it's like, do you guys watch nature shows? You guys watch Nat Geo a lot?
I love the Godfather analogy. It's so true.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, do you watch like Nat Geo, Animal Planet?
What? Like Mutual of Omaha's.
Yeah, do you watch like National Geographic, like nature shows?
I've tuned into those from time to time.
So like when a new lion comes over and takes over a pride, First of all, he like pisses everywhere to mark his territory.
Yes.
The second thing he does is he kills all the cubs from the previous lion. Just got to say, there's a new sheriff at town. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has just killed all of Rick Spielman's cubs. Is what he's done.
Kwesi Mufasa Mensah? I mean, is that what we're looking at here?
I mean, he's not messing around. That he did not like last year's draft class outside of a couple people.
In light of this, I would like to point out that lions are dicks. I mean, damn, that's not right. That's messed up, is what that is. Good
Lions do not mess around.
All right.
They sleep like 12 hours a day, and they have sex up to 16 times a day. A lion.
Make the women go get their food for them. I mean, it's not a bad life. It's not a bad life. All right. So that's the wide receiver group. Tight end seems
so dumb.
We are so dumb. So the tight end group has had absolutely no surprises to me. Irv Smith Jr., Johnny Munt, and Ben Ellison made the roster. I guess maybe you could say Zach Davidson was a mild surprise. Was the tight end group any? And Nick Muse got cut as well. Back on the practice squad. Any surprises for you, Chris?
I know I said at the end of the Broncos game that I thought Davidson might have played himself onto the roster. Apparently, I was incorrect on that because he did not. So that was a bit of a mild surprise. But like you said, with the kind of culling of the 2021 draft class that we've seen thus far, it's not as big a surprise as it probably could have been.
No, it wasn't. Drew, any surprises in tight end for you?
No surprises. But if Irv Smith gets hurt, there's a big hole there, guys. It's a problem.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I mean, Irv Smith, he is as much of a weapon as a decoy than he is as a receiver. He's got both that covered. And I think KOC play calling wise, since he's calling the plays, is going to like that Irv Smith. You can line him up outside, even if you're not using him. You get a linebacker or you get a corner or safety out there to cover him, and you could disguise your look. If he gets hurt, nobody's worried about the Viking tight ends. They're not worried about Muntcake at all. So let's hope that Irv Smith can stay healthy.
For the tackles, Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill, your starters, no surprises there. The backups are Blake Randall, Vidarian Lowe. Congratulations on Vidarian Lowe making the roster as a 6th-round pick.
Absolutely.
Excellent. That's so excellent.
And the aforementioned Oli Udo. Lowe was kind of a surprise. I thought Lowe was going to be more of a practice squad candidate, but hey, congratulations to him to making the roster. Any surprises for you at the tackle spot, Drew?
No surprises whatsoever, Ted. I think they did exactly what they wanted to do. It's what I expected at tackle.
Chris?
No, I mean, Lowe was a surprise on the positive side. Like you said, I think a lot of us were pulling for him after we heard his backstory and when he kind of went to Illinois to get the NFL in the first. So happy for that. But no real surprise. I think we kind of figured that Blake Randall was the primary backup. And I don't think there's any real surprises there other than like the positive surprise of Lowe making the roster.
On the interior offensive line, there was a trade yesterday. Jesse Davis got traded to Pittsburgh for a conditional 2025 7th-round pick. First of all, I didn't know you could send trades out that far. There's a good chance one of us will be dead by 2025, and we'll never realize how that trade came to be. So that kind of bums me out, to be quite honest.
Is it really 2025?
2025.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we'll get to the 20 draft and the Steelers will go ahead and take the pick because everyone just forgot that they traded that pick to Minnesota. Nobody wrote this down.
That's a real stretch in time there, Ted.
But the fallout to that then is that Ed Ingram, who we all said was going to win the right guard job, I think even before training camp, won the right guard job. So your left guard is Ezra Cleveland, your center is Garrett Bradbury, and your right guard is Ingram. Your backup on the interior line is Chris Reed. He looks to be the only backup right now, and Austin Schlottman is the backup center. Go ahead, Chris.
I think they were working Udo more at guard again on the second. They had a tackle. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought I had that. somewhere.
They've got him listed. The Vikings official depth chart has him listed as a tackle, so we'll go with that for now. But you're right.
You don't want him at tackle. You don't want him at tackle.
You don't want him at guard.
No,
I don't want him at all.
Again, we talked about this and it and we kind of called this early on too. Wyatt Davis, man, 3rd round pick from last year, who I thought was going to be the Ed Ingram. I thought it was going to be the player Ed Ingram is this year. He didn't even get back on the practice squad. So Wyatt Davis is done with you.
I was sitting around about an hour before the show, and Toonces said, "You know what's weird, Drew?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "This Wyatt Davis thing. How come out of all the millions of people in the world, nobody could tell us what the hell is wrong with Wyatt Davis?" And I started cracking up because I started thinking about it going, and she's going, "Can a coach or maybe his mom say what's wrong with the guy?" And I'm going, "I don't know. It's going to be one of the weird mysteries forever because he was so dominant in college. But is he just going to fade away? We're never going to know what happened. What was the problem with it? We're just never going to know? Why can't we know? I want to know what the hell is wrong with that guy. I want to know.
I don't know. We never will. So that's go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say we sure won't. I mean, I know there were rumors last year he showed up like overweight or something or another, and then there were, we might have to go back and kind of retcon Mike Zimmer rookies things. It turned out he just didn't do weren't that good because Chess gone, gone, Wyatt Davis gone. I mean, those guys apparently are not that good. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a Zimmer anymore.
I think it was a smart move with Jesse Davis, Ted, because I think they were going to cut him anyway. So to get something for him in the trade, I think was a really good move by Mensa in that regard. I think they got Jesse Davis thinking he's got to play guard. He's going to be our guard if Ingram doesn't work out. And they see what Ingram has done in the preseason, and that changed their mind going, all right, we can go to plan B, which is now plan A, and get him out of here.
Yeah.
So they were going to cut him anyway. So
I think they were, yeah. Okay, so that's offense. Let's go to the other side of the ball. On defense, we'll start with the outside linebacker position. You got Daniil Hunter and Zadarius Smith as your starters, no surprise. Backing him up, Patrick Jones II, Luigi Villain, undrafted free agent that made the roster. Congratulations, Luigi. And DJ Wanham. Any surprises there, boys?
Yeah, I think Villain is kind of in the Vidarian Low category. He was kind of a pleasant surprise to make the roster. I mean, I know they had Zach McLeod, who they thought pretty highly of apparently, and gave him a big bonus to be a undrafted free agent. And Villain beat him out. And there's one other person whose name escapes me. It's not Surratt, because I think he was listed as an inside guy, but I'm not sure who else they had at the outside linebacker spot. But Luigi Villain did what he needed to do. He made a couple of big plays in the preseason. He had an interception after a deflection, and he did what he needed to do, and he's an NFL player now.
Zach McLeod and Janarius Robinson were the two guys that got cut.
Yeah.
And Robinson got signed to the practice squad today.
Kajub.
On the Drew, you got anything for the outside linebackers?
I don't know. I can't. I'm trying to read this chart you sent me. This goddamn thing's so small. I need the fucking Hubble telescope to read it. Why can't I read this goddamn thing? Can I get this bigger? I mean, 5 mouse can't read this shit. This is tiny, tiny, tiny writing.
I wouldn't yell at your secretary like that, dude.
I don't know. We're talking. You. No, I don't think. No, that's not Toonces. I would not be talking to Toonces like that. No, I don't know. We need to keep, like every other position, guys. We need to keep those starters healthy because there's a bit of a drop off. There's a bit of a drop off with all. We knew that months ago. The Vikings are going to have very good starters, and it's going to be a drop off when we get to the backups. But no, not really anything different.
Okay. Let's see. At defensive end, so the third trade that sort of shook everybody up yesterday. Well, first of all, the Vikings cut Armand Watts, which kind of a surprise. I thought by the end of the preseason he was going to be a starter at one of the defensive end positions. But they ended up cutting Watts, and they traded a 6th round pick to Houston for Ross Blacklock, and they got a 7th-round pick in return, I believe it was. You look at Blacklock's stats, he looks like a fairly decent pass rusher, not so much as a run stopper, sort of, I think the opposite, if you will, of Watts, but I think the Watts thing was more of a cap move with Blacklock coming in at half the price, and they have an extra year of control for him contract-wise. Did you like that trade, Drew?
Yeah, I think it's a money ball move. It's a money move all the way. I was a big Watts fan. I thought Watts was coming on strong. He the guy that could slip the tackles inside and get in the gaps and get in the backfield are really guys that I mean, talk about trip your trigger. Look at a defensive lineman. But I did an extensive breakdown on Blacklock too when he was at TCU his senior year, as we talked about him in the 2020 draft. And I think he's kind of disappointed with the Texans so far. He needs help with the run game. His problem in college, his biggest downfall in college was playing against the run, and it basically carried over to the Texans. So that's a problem that is carried from TCU to the pro football level. His play against the run is really weak. But in terms of potential and talent, for what I saw when I did a draft write-up, I had that guy as a late first rounder, second rounder. I don't know where he went.
He was a 2nd-round pick with Houston, I think.
I had him as a mid-second, maybe late first, mid-second. He's a great player in college, and I think he's got that slippery kind of great guy with leverage, kind of sneaky, slippery type of great power, great size. He's got everything it takes. He just hasn't jumped to that level of where we need to be. But I will say this, and we talk a lot about interior defensive linemen and interior offensive linemen. Usually it takes 3 seasons for these guys to completely bust out. And with the Texans, he played 25% of the snaps his rookie year, which isn't bad for a rookie interior defensive lineman, 25%. And then he bumped that up to 50% his second year, last year.
Okay.
So he's coming along. Maybe these are the learning years, and then he's going to shred now. I mean, that's kind of how they want to go younger with the guy. The guy's got a lot of talent. He's a very athletic player. I like the move.
Chris, you okay with the move or not?
I think so. I'm not as well versed on how Blacklock performed as obviously is. Drew's obviously done a lot of work looking into what Blacklock is capable of. But yeah, I think Watts, he was probably the biggest surprise of cut down weekend until the Amir Smith-Marset thing happened earlier today. But yeah, I'm starting to think that now that Kwesi has gotten all his people in place and whatnot, they kind of have a certain profile that they're looking for, and I guess Blacklock fills whatever profile that is, whereas Armand Watts probably didn't. And unfortunately, we're gonna get to see Armand Watts in Chicago twice a year now because the Bears jumped on that dude.
Yeah, I was bummed to see that. He's a good Armand Watts is a great player. I was
for a 6th-round pick, as far as he developed, yeah, that was impressive in 3 years in Minnesota.
The other defensive ends, Dalvin Tomlinson, James Lynch, and Asazi Otamayo, 5th-round pick out of University of Minnesota, made the club. Congratulations. One of the guys they ended up cutting, the other guy besides Armand Watts was Jalen Twyman, guy we all really wanted to make the club. He got put back onto the practice squad today. Nose tackles, Harrison Phillips, no surprise there. They cut Julian Taylor. Your inside linebackers, Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks are your starters, with Brian Asamoah and Troy Dye as your two backups. William Quinkeu, Blake Lynch, and Chaz Surratt were shown the door. Did Blake Lynch surprise you getting cut, Drew?
A little bit because of his experience here, and he hasn't really been a scrub, but he hasn't been a star in his time here, and he played a lot last year and had some really, really, really good performances. But I think you can find a Blake Lynch tomorrow if you needed to. I don't think there was anything special with it. No.
I think they got rid of him because Troy Dye they kind of had pegged as the primary backup, and I don't think he had the greatest training camp. But neither did I don't think Lynch did anything enough to overtake Dye. And then they weren't getting rid of Asamoah. I think Asamoah had a fantastic training camp. So
keep your eye on him.
Yeah, that kind of made sense to me. I don't know about you, Chris.
No, I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm still not terribly enamored with Troy Dye's play or anything like that, but the Vikings are, and I guess Dye is one of their core special teams players too. So, I mean, it was a little bit of a surprise to see Blake Lynch get cut, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's that surprising just because of how much the Vikings like Troy did. And obviously, we mentioned Ryan Asamoah and how he performed this preseason. So, they were only going to keep 4 inside linebackers, and I don't think any of the 4 that they kept are that big a surprise.
All right, look, we got just over 350 people in the room. Again, if you want to enter to win a prize, go ahead and just make a comment in the live chat. Say hi, good evening, whatever. You're entered at the end of the show. We're going to get a drawing, and the winner of that drawing gets a prize out of our prize vault. Ruby will hook you up with that. And go ahead while you're here, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff.
How's the chat going, Ted? What's going on? What's the general feel? What's the fever of the chat room, Ted? Tell me.
I've been trying to read this small, terrible writing that your secretary gave us. I don't get it.
Look at the chart, dude. I can't see it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If anybody has any questions in there, we'll try to get to them. We have a really loaded show.
Yeah.
And with really loaded hosts and a loaded show. So I don't know really what we'll try, though. But I appreciate everybody with all the support everybody's given us. And Ted's right.
So the corners, that was one of the big things that everybody's looking as the Vikings hit training camp. Your starters look to be Cameron Dantzler and Patrick Peterson. Not a big surprise. Andrew Booth and Shandon Sullivan. Not a big surprise. Caleb Evans made the squad. Again, not a surprise. Chris Boyd won the CB6 job. Nate Hairston, Perry Nickerson, and Ty Smith got cut, and Perry Nickerson got brought back to the practice squad. Chris, what do you think about the secondary? Do you think they're going to be any better this year? Or are they going to suck a bag of ass again?
I don't think they're going to suck. I mean, if I think there are going to be minimal bags of ass involved with the secondary here. I think, hopefully, with any kind of. But yeah, the one potential deficiency I see with the cornerbacks is that Sullivan is really the only guy that has any real slot ability, and it's not to him. I don't know what they're going to try to put somebody into that spot. I don't know if you try to move Patrick Peterson inside as he's the most experienced or whatnot. That's the only issue I can see with the corners. I think they got 6 pretty solid guys there. I mean, I know Boyd isn't a terribly popular keep, but he's another special teams guy, and yeah, that's why he's over the guys that got cut, I think.
Okay, fair, but was Nate Hairston, Ty Smith, or Perry Nickerson better than Chris Boyd in training camp?
Probably not.
No,
he wasn't. I mean, so, and who was the guy that they cut when they went from 85 to 80? They went down. They got rid of a corner that a lot of folks thought was kind of a surprise at the time. Name escapes me right now.
Hand.
That's it, Harrison Hand. I guess you could have made. I kind of thought it was going to come down to Hand and Boyd, but the Vikings decided it was going to be Boyd, and they got rid of Hand fairly early on. So, okay, whatever. Drew, what do you think the secondary is going to be this year?
Sorry. See, I can see Ted at his ESPN interview. What do you think of this guy, Ted? Well, I think he sucks a bag of ass.
Yeah, that's why there'll never be an ESPN interview. So what do you think about?
Okay. Compose myself.
All right. What do you think on the corners?
The corners are exactly where I thought they would be, Ted.
Yeah, for the most part. No big surprise.
People bag on Shandon Sullivan, but he's just a slot corner. He'll do fine. He knows what he's doing in there.
See, I think he's the big question mark right now. I have a feeling that Booth is. The few plays I looked for Sullivan in the preseason, he didn't look good. He gave up a couple big completions. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays early on and how quick, if he does struggle, how quickly the Vikings may look to make a change.
The corner group will be exponentially better than last year. I am fired up to watch the corner, especially Caleb Evans. That guy can play.
A question from Nick Howard. Harrison Hand, after he got released by the Vikings, was picked up by the Giants. Does anybody know if he made the Giants 53-man roster?
I'll take a look.
Okay, well, you're looking.
Roster hasn't listed.
While you're looking, we'll move on to the safeties again. Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum is the starter over Lewis Seen, who obviously made the club. The 4 safety is Josh Metellus. They ended up cutting Mike Brown, and they brought Miles Dorn back to the practice squad. Drew, any surprises there to you?
No, there isn't. I think this is a big group in terms of scheming and knowing where you need to be on the field. When you're in the 3-4, your safeties have to know what they're doing. They have to. I mean, it's a big deal. You listen to Bill Cowher, the old Steeler coach, talk about the 3-4 and how you implement it and where your safeties play with Polamalu and all those guys. That's what made the 3-4. That and your nose tackle. Your nose tackle and your safeties make the 3-4 because you have to adjust on motion plays and everything, and your safeties have to know what they're doing. So I'm worried about. I like the talent. I just hope the scheme can translate over to who they got. Personnel wise, they're set at safety. They got some great safeties, the Vikings.
Do you think, Chris, Lewis Seen not being listed a starter is a big deal? I kind of feel that the Vikings are going to use a lot of 3 safety looks. I think they're going to move. I think Seen's going to be in playing enough that the title of starter maybe isn't as big of a deal as it was a few years ago.
No, absolutely agree. I mean, we've thought about the Vikings using 3 safeties. I mean, they've got 3 good ones in Bynum and Seen and Harrison Smith, obviously. So no, I don't think people might think Seen is a starter right out of the gate, so we're into bust territory and whatnot. And no, I mean, let the guy actually play a few games that matter here first because when he was out there in the preseason, he was generally surrounded by a bunch of guys that weren't going to make the team. He was out there with a lot of second, third string guys. Now he's going to be out there with the starters. So, he's going to be okay. And because someone asked, Harrison Hand is on the practice squad with the Giants now, along with another former Viking in Nate Metters, whose name I was roster here. So, yeah, he's on their squad. He did not make the 53 for them.
Okay. So that pretty much does it for the offense and defense. I don't know about you guys. If there's a weak spot on offense, I would say center. There was a rumor yesterday that the Vikings.
Can we talk about that for a second? The center position.
Yeah, we can. When the Vikings when they got rid of Armon Watts, and it just kind of felt they felt like they were making a couple of moves to clear up cap space. Rumor was they were going to get a center. If it's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet. Drew, what are your thoughts on the center?
Oh man, it was. I thought there'd be something in the works the last couple of days. They're moving money around for something.
Yes,
something is going on. Something is percolating in the Vikings coffee pot. I don't know if you can feel good about Bradbury and Schlottman. I mean, we talk about the how Chuck Noll used to talk about the great 8, the great 4 guys on offense, 4 guys on defense. Center being one of those guys that you need to have on a scale of 1 to 10. You need to have an 8 or a 9 or a 10 rated center. What do the Vikings have right now? Bradbury's a 5, and Schlottman's what, a 5?
I would say Bradbury's not even a 5. He was.
I don't
probably
know
a 2 or 3.
I don't know what they're trying to do. They don't have the safety on this team to do what you want to do on the offensive line. I'm going to say that right now. And I don't know. Something has to happen because I don't want to go into the beginning of the season with either of those guys being my center.
I think it's almost too late that you're going to have to now. I mean,
well, you're not going to go to a team and get a starting center from them. Everybody knows, it's 2 weeks till the season starts, week and a half. But you got to do. I mean, what are they going to do? They can't just say, well, we got a weak spot, we're going to go with it. That's a Zimmer way of doing it. I don't want to do that.
Chris, what do you think? You
got to get somebody. Got to go get somebody.
You think they're going to get somebody, or they're making moves? The cap space moves they made yesterday are for a center, or what?
I mean, they could very easily be. I mean, I just don't have any idea who that center might be that you're going to go out and get at this point because, like we keep saying, we're 11 days away from football that actually matters, and you're not going to get in here and get him spun up on the offense, everything like that in 11
That's
days.
true. That's true.
Bradbury center. As much as we dislike it, and as much as it's probably bad, I mean, he's the center right now because they just don't have anybody else unless they line up out there week one and Austin Schlottman's out there at center instead of Garrett Bradbury. But I don't see that happening.
Here on Vikings Report, we have this. We've nicknamed the group of fans that think the sky is always falling. the everything sucks all the time crowd. ESAT Nation. There's a little message to ESAT Nation that just thinks Garrett Bradbury is the worst thing ever. The Vikings had a borderline top 10 offense last year,
right?
With a coach that hated offense and an offensive coordinator that had never been an offensive coordinator before, and they did it in spite of Garrett Bradbury as their center. I think the position needs to be improved. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I also think that entering the season with Bradbury is not going to be this disaster that everybody assumes it will be.
Totally understand. Totally fair point. And it makes me reevaluate everything I just said about being paranoid about.
No, I mean, it's a legit concern. Schlottman looked better than, Bradbury didn't even play during the preseason, but Schlottman looked good. Again, it was against second, third, and fourth string guys and guys that are no longer in the NFL. But they did okay with Bradbury last year. They did. I mean,
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
And I think when you got a guy like Kevin O'Connell, looking at this offense and how to implement it and how to maximize the strengths of the players, he also has a way, I would hope, to neutralize the weaknesses. Maybe it's more play actions, rollouts. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, 11 days, we're going to find out one way or the other.
Yeah.
So
actually, when I come to think of it, look at the comparison they had last year, Ted, that you just mentioned. You had a head coach who didn't care anything about the offense. He not only didn't care, didn't understand it. I don't want to know anything. You guys get Norv Turner, get all these guys in here, get them in here. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to run the offense. Kubiak, when we did Vikings Report at the beginning of the season last year, I said Kubiak won't make it 10 weeks because he's not a coordinator. He didn't get fired, but he sucked, just like I said he would. He's not an offensive coordinator. So between Zimmer and that, look what they did last year offensively, like Ted just said. Now we get O'Connell, Wes Phillips. That's a huge upgrade over Zim Dick and coloring book Clint. It is. It's big. So you take where they were last year and factor that in. Ted, you have a great point. Maybe it won't be a disaster.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong a couple times in my life. Not very often.
Really?
I mean, three. I was wrong three. I've been wrong three times in my life since 6 o'clock. But that's neither here nor there. Look,
3 times, huh?
I could be very wrong on this. It could be a big deal.
No, you make a great point. You make it changes my mind.
You got a good point, and we'll see. Again, we'll see what happens in 11 days. On defense, if there's a weak spot, I would think it would be at that defensive end position with Jonathan Bullard and Russ Blacklock. And depth, everybody's got problems with depth in the NFL. But on defense, man, I'm not really sold on Bullard and Blacklock. Chris, is that defensive end spot the one that bothers you, or is there another one that you're looking at as well?
It does. I mean, because I don't know Blacklock is a full-time guy. I don't know if he and Bullard are going to be some kind of rotation or whatever it might be. I mean, we had Armin Watts, who was apparently going to be, the guy, and then they cut him. So, but yeah, that's probably on the defense. I mean, you can talk about some of the youth in the secondary. The only real experience back there is Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson. Otherwise, it's a bunch of guys that are still not communicating and whatnot. But yeah, the weakest spot is probably that defensive end spot across from Harrison Phillips and Dalvin Tomlin. So we'll have to see. I don't know if they're bringing anyone else in. This is how they're going to go, but we'll find out.
Real quick, we got over 450 people in the chat. We got just a few minutes left in this show. If you want to be eligible to win a prize, stop in the chat, say hi. That's all you got to do to be eligible to win the prize. But if you would like to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, all that good stuff that you're supposed to do. I think I covered all those bases. But if nothing else, say hi, be eligible to win a prize. We're going to draw it here in just a couple minutes. Ruby's going to spin the wheel of Toonses, and we will let you know who wins.
You know what? Let's give a shout out to Ted Glover. It's not easy hosting this job and dealing with me and Chris. You do a great job, man. You do a really good job.
All right. One last position group, and that's special teams. Okay. Greg Joseph was Legatron in the preseason. Didn't even really have any competition. Ryan Wright beat out Jordan Berry for the punter job. Andrew DiPaola and is your long snapper. And it looks like Kene Wangu is your primary kick returner. And now with the trade for Jalen Reagor, Reagor is going to be your primary punt returner in place of Amir Smith-Marset. I want to say one thing about Jalen Reagor here.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about, well, he's not as good a receiver as Amir Smith-Marset.
What?
Amir Smith-Marset has more potential.
No.
They shouldn't have gotten rid of him.
Who are you listening to?
I don't think the Vikings got Jalen Reagor to be a 1, 2, or 3 wide receiver. They got him to be a punt returner. Punt returner touches the ball 4 or 5 times a game. Wide receiver 4 or 5 touches the ball 4 or 5 times a month. Reagor, if he's going to have an impact with the Vikings, it's going to be as a punt returner, and he's a pretty darn good one. He averaged, I think, almost 10 yards. In his 2-year career, he averaged, I think, about 10 yards per punt return, and we haven't seen that around in these parts in quite a while. I think he's going to make an impact there, but we'll see. I'm okay with the move. I'm not a big fan of the 4th round pick, maybe potentially turn into a 5th. I think that's kind of steep for a guy like Reagor, but it is what it is. Chris?
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, the punt return spot was one that, as we said earlier, that we had been talking about all offseason and all preseason. They didn't really have a solution there when they didn't bring back D.D. Westbrook, and Westbrook wasn't especially great at it anyway, I didn't think. This team's still looking to replace Marcus Sherrills, who left like 3 or 4 years ago. And Reagor he has the ability to do that. I mean, I don't know why. I put something out there on social media about that Reagor was the answer to the punt return position. I got a bunch of Philly fans tell me that I don't know what I'm about, and lots of misspellings and swear words and like that. But
weird coming from Philly fans. They're usually called.
Really?
No,
there's
as stunned as you are.
They're normally such rational, calm people.
Yeah, I know. But I don't have any problem with the conversation, really. I mean, if he makes a positive impact, and I'm fine with it.
Come on.
I don't like the 4th, but yeah, we'll see.
Drew?
First off, anybody that's telling you Smith-Marset is a better receiver than Reagor, that is not true. That is not true. If you were an owner of a team, Ted, and you sat across the desk from me and said, the file on Reagor, file on Marset, I need 1 receiver, who are you picking? I'm taking Reagor 10 out of 10 times.
Would you have made the trade that Kwesi Adolfo-Menso made?
Yes.
You would have traded a 4th, conditional 4th for Jalen Reagor.
Yes, because this is what it's going to turn into. Jalen Reagor is going to end up being the number 2 receiver on this team.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Let's bet. What do we want to bet right now?
We'll bet right anything you want. You can bet this fat football. You can bet anything you want. You can bet this.
No. So you're saying Jalen Reagor. Hang on. You're saying Jalen Reagor is going to overcome Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne.
Adam Thielen is going to retire. This is a big thing in the works. He's going to retire at the end of the season. They brought Reagor in to work him in to be the number 2. He's going to end up being better than KJ Osborne. Thielen's going to walk away and wave and come out and have a great big thing at 50. I don't want Thielen to leave, but something's in the works here. McCardell, this is he picked him. He went out there and they said, find us a wide receiver. He says, I want this guy. And I've watched his tape at TCU. I know he's been a disappointment at Philadelphia. Philadelphia didn't know what they were doing. They had shit coaches, shit scheme, and shit routes. They didn't work him right. They didn't use him right. He's wasted his time over there. But the guy is super talented, especially on the deep routes. He's a guy you want to get on the bubble screen. He's great with the ball in his hands, and he can score from anywhere on the field. I don't understand the hate for Jalen Reagor this early by getting him. He is going to be.
You are sampling your product, Heisenberg. That's what you're doing.
No, he had what, 35 punt returns with Philly. 35, 321 yards, 1 touchdown. He had a 10-yard average punt returns, which isn't shoddy. 10 yards a punt.
That's pretty good for a punt return.
For a Vikings team who's had 2-yard average the last 2 yards. That's all he had the last 4 years. He is gonna be a great punt returner. He's gonna, like you said, give us all that we need there. But I don't want to underestimate his power as a wide receiver. I'm telling you, that guy is gonna it was a great, by the time his time is done here, you're gonna say that was cheap getting that guy here.
When will Jalen Reagor become wide receiver 2? Next year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We
go ahead. The chat is going to blow up at me. They're going to hate me. Whatever.
Drug test for Drew. Drew, you're on drugs.
I won't pass the drug test. I probably. I want to talk about these 20 guys I have on this sheet real fast.
Real quick, I want to get Chris's opinion on Reagor. Do you agree with Drew that he's going to be wide receiver 2?
No, he doesn't.
Probably not. I really don't. I mean, I think he can be a bigger contributor than he was in Philadelphia, but we've seen KJ Osborne really improve himself. And, if Keenan McCardle went out and pounded the table for Jalen Reagor, we know he was out there pounding the table for Jalen Naylor too. So we know
what about Naylor?
That guy develops. Yeah. He's the number 5 guy right now, I think.
Naylor has just sat quietly getting himself a roster spot, Chris.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He sure has.
And that's another guy, Keenan McCardle, is literally, well, not literally, but metaphorically stood on the table for during draft weekend to get him in the 6th round.
How did Naylor get a spot over Marset? Why didn't they cut Naylor?
I think a lot of it has to do with Naylor being a guy that the current staff and front office scouted, and Amir Smith-Marset being a guy that they did not. And if they're equal, I mean, they're real equal. Amir Smith-Marset didn't really stand out as a punt returner, which is kind of what we thought he would be, and he didn't. So if you're a new guy, you come in and kill the previous guy's Cubs.
I'm interested to know what people think why Marset's a better wide receiver than Reagor. Send me the reasons of why you think that.
I think a lot of it has to do with how Amir Smith-Marset played at the end of last year. I think he had a 100-yard receiving game against the Bears at the end of the season. Jalen Reagor has never lived up to his first-round potential, and you gave some very good reasons why.
Ted!
Very good reasons why.
Look at the quarterbacks he's had.
I get it. Give him
Kirk Cousins and a Nate fucking Sudfeld, and we'll see what kind of wide receiver he is. Seriously.
You're right. We'll see.
Give Reagor Cousins type of quarterbacking. Let's just play it out and see what it has. We'll make a bet. And I'm always, me, Ted, I'm a good man for my word for my bets.
Now, I will tell you, if Reagor lives up to his potential and becomes a legit wide receiver too, the Vikings are going to have, I don't want to say an unstoppable offense, but it's going to be pretty doggone close.
And Kwesi will have a big castle, won't he?
Yeah.
He'll have a big castle built for himself because that'll be a good call.
All right. Well, who are these 600 guys you wanted to talk about?
No, just we started months ago talking about we had a list of 20. We had 10. Let me get my notes together here. 50. Okay. 10 free agents and 10 rookies.
Yeah.
So that adds up to 20.
Okay. Hang on. 10. Let me real quick do this math. 10. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It does. Okay. Continue.
That's by my count, Ted, there's 16 of the 20 have made the team. Only 9 of the 10 draft picks.
Okay.
And 7 of the 10 free agents have made the team. Am I mistaken with that?
Who are the 3 that did not? I can't read your writing.
Or the 4 that did not?
Or who are the 4 that did
Jesse
not?
Davis, okay. Nate Hairston,
okay.
Julian Taylor from the free agent list.
Yep.
3 of 10. And the only one from the draft list is Nick Muse. Am I wrong about that?
No.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So 16 of the 20 that we've been charting for 3 months have made the 53. Mensa is making it known. This is my team and my roster. I just wanted to bring that up.
That's pretty good. Chris, I would argue that Drew is right there. That Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and the new staff are, I don't want to say purging the old guys, but they are clearly showing favoritism towards the guys they scouted and drafted over borderline depth guys that they inherited.
No, and this is what happens with teams in, any sport, whether it's basketball or hockey or football or whatever it is. You get a new general manager, you get a new coach, they want their guys. So they, as much as they're able to, I mean, in the NFL, you can only have so much roster movement because of how contracts are structured and whatever. But, they're doing as much as they can, Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, to put their stamp on this team, because if things don't work out in 3 or 4 years, they're not going to be able to look back and say, well, look at all the crap I inherited. No, you're making this your team with your guys, and you're going to rise and fall based on their performance. And, if we get to 3 or 4 years from now and the Vikings have been awful and the roster is, falling apart, it's going to be on Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, not on Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman, and they're making that clear.
And they're taking ownership of it right away. They're implementing their vision, whether you agree with it or not right now. I mean, I can see why people would be doubting, releasing guys like Armand Watts. I'm gonna have my knee-jerk reactions on Twitter, as always. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, follow the show at Report Ted, 2 T's, REPORTTED. I'm Purple at Purple Buckeye. Chris is at Daily Norseman. Drew remains above the fray and does not dive into this Twitter cesspool. And namaste to you, my friend.
What's weird when it comes to trades? It's always like Reagor. You get all of a sudden the first wave of people. Oh, he sucks. Oh, it sucks. And then Blacklock. You gave up Watts for Blacklock. That guy's terrible with the Texans. He hasn't done anything. The first wave of people are always the negative ones. It's like you gotta sift through what they're doing. You notice both guys in that situation are from 2020, Ted.
Yes.
Mets is getting young players. He doesn't want to go out and get Everson Griffin, Sheldon Richardson. He doesn't want to do that.
Great
point.
That's
his style. That's a big thing that people don't look at.
Not only younger players, but under longer contract control.
Right.
Watts was going to be a free agent. Blacklock, they have 2 years. They got Reagor for 2 years, and then they have, as a first rounder, I think they have to do that the fifth year option. Yeah. So, yeah.
The Reagor thing comes through Pro Football Chase, and it gets announced, and the first thing I see is 3 touchdowns. That guy sucks. Well, you haven't thought through the whole process of why they're doing it and why they're getting this guy. Take your time and look at what the process is. Take your time and look at every aspect of a trade. Look at it all.
All right. Ruby is wanting us to pull out the wheel of destiny, the wheel of tunes. Says, Ruby, you there? You ready to spin the wheel?
You guys ready? Okay. You saw my messages there?
Yes, ma'am, I did. we listen to Ruby around here.
All right, here we go.
I was going a little long-winded on that. Sorry. Wheel of Toonses. Carl Lee?
Dan Lee.
Dan Lee.
Close to Carl Lee.
Congratulations. Dan Lee is our prize winner tonight. Please get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. Send her an email. Tell her you're the winner. She will send you a link to our Vikings Report prize vault. You'll be able to pick one of the many. I think we have over 50 prizes now in our prize vault. Drew and Ruby have done an excellent job of replenishing the prize vault for 2022 because we were very benevolent show hosts last year and gave away a lot of stuff. And we're going to do it again this year because we like to give away prizes.
Dan Lee, tasty tidbit on Dan Lee. He's the guy that named our show our after the Vikings, the Rewind. He's the guy that.
That's right. We ran that contest last year, didn't we?
So Dan Lee, double winner.
Dan.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Dan.
He's the one that named. We did that contest about naming our show that is coming up this Sunday.
All right. That's right. So before I let you go, again, a couple of quick reminders. Head on over to Purple Pain Forums. That's purplepainforums.com. Check out all the message board traffic they got going on. Just great conversation with a bunch of great people. They've got their own games going on. The Vikings Pick Six and the Purple Paint Accountability Contest. You can win some great prizes. Check it out over there. We will be back in studio next week, next Friday at 10 a.m. Central. Our show will premiere. Well, we've got the return of the big board. We got the return of Robert W. Farnsworth. We've got the return of our weekly season-long preview show. And then next Sunday, as soon as the Vikings kick the living dog shit out of the Green Bay Packers.
Kick them!
Drew, Christopher, Ruby, and I will be on live for Vikings Report Rewind, going over the game. And that is going to be our weekly format for the rest of the regular season. Drew, you got any last words for the fine folks out there? Because we still got, hang on, buddy. We still got almost 300 people in the chat room.
I don't want to leave 300 people hanging. Let's keep going. We got two big contests during the season coming up. We'll go over all that next week during our studio show. I'm looking forward to getting back in the studio. I like the production and all that Toonsis does for that. My time I would like to spend right now giving a shout out to some guys that were on the show that we're going to be watching this weekend. Remember Big John Martin? We did an interview with him, the high school kid. He's entering his senior season out there in Texas. John, remember, Michigan, you want to sign those Michigan papers. You don't want to go to Ohio State. Michigan needs you. John Martin, 7 feet tall, eats people for lunch. He's a great player. Brad Cecil, he is going to start his season Saturday with South Florida, the starting center. He's been on Vikings Report. We had a long discussion with him. Starts the season this Saturday. Emily Staker, give a shout out to her too. We had her on, his agent. And we can't forget about the Green brothers, Ted.
We can't.
Josh and James Green.
We can't.
Tennessee State. Our boys at Tennessee State, who are also on Vikings Report. We did a long interview with them. Fantastic guys. They open up September 3rd on the road.
Ruby's getting on me in the chat room. I forgot to mention, with our studio show, we got trivia with Toonses. I don't know how I forgot that, but that mistake has been rectified. We got the big board. We got Farnsworth. We got trivia. It's going to be a great show next week. Yeah, the live August is ending. We're back in the studio from here until February, hopefully February, if we're playing in the bowl. Vikings Report will be Friday morning with the studio show, Ted, and then immediately following the Vikings game, we'll always be on live. So 2 shows a week from here to the end. But I want to give a shout out to those past guys that have been on the show. All right, Chris, you got any last words?
No, I mean the roster is mostly set. We'll see if anything else happens over the course of the next week and a half, and I'm already looking forward to being back here with you guys a week from Sunday to talk about the ass kicking that the Vikings will have laid upon Green Bay in front of a national audience. That's always
give me a score, Ted. Give me a score, Chris Gates.
So, I'm going to say
on now.
31-24 Vikings.
Yeah, there we go. Our first game prediction of the year. All right.
Don't blame me if it happened. I was put under duress. My apologies.
All right, for Toonses, who runs the best trivia in the business. For Drew and Chris, who are the 2 best co-hosts in the business. I am your humble host, Ted Glover. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching Vikings Report Rewind. Again, you'll see us next Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time for episode, I think it's 72 or 73 for our studio show.
72, Ted.
And then Sunday afternoon, right at the end of the Vikings game, after the Vikings kick the holy hell out of the Green Bay Packers to kick off the Kevin O'Connell area. For Drew, for Chris, for Ruby, everybody who joined us in the chat room, thank you so much. Again, like, subscribe, ring the bell. We will see